Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Talk Seahawks podcast. I'm your host, Robert Smith, along with my co-host, Adam Stellman. Today, we'll be previewing our Week 3 matchup against the Carolina Panthers. Adam, let's talk Seahawks.
Let's. Coming off of a great win. This is definitely a much less angst-ridden podcast than our Week 2 previews. So I'm pretty glad to get this rolling. Look, the Seahawks definitely bounced back after a pretty tragic Week 1 loss, or I shouldn't say tragic, I should say pathetic Week 1 loss to the Rams at home. Going on the road and taking down an absolutely on fire Lions team who had just come off defeating the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. So we knew they were going to be fired up. We obviously were fired up. I think it's really of note considering the injuries we had, especially along the offensive line coming into that game, and how well this team did to kind of overcome adversity. Honestly, I think when this team's got its back up against the wall is when it plays its best. And I think that showed out in Week 2.
Oh, I completely agree. You saw what this team was made of in that second half as they fought to get that lead. And then even when it's kind of slipped away and they tied it up, they came in overtime and they were able to pull it out. Like I said, leave no doubt. It was a one drive touchdown, game over, we win. You got to give all the credit in the world to the Seahawks for just a great game and an exciting game. It was something that kept us engaged as fans. I even had friends of mine who are fans of other teams messaging me saying, hey, this is a really good game. Our friend Mitch Mazio, our Vikings kind of correspondent for us, he messaged me and said game of the week. So I couldn't agree. Great effort by the team.
Yeah, it was just a great show. I mean, like just night and day between Week 1 and Week 2. And I think the thought, or at least the hope, is on our end, especially, is that we can keep that going into Week 3 as we return home to I was going to say CenturyLink Field because I will always call it CenturyLink Field. So excuse me, but when we return home and got the 12s behind them, so I'm hoping we can take that momentum in this game. I mean, if you go by the press conferences we've seen from Pete Carroll or some of the players, they certainly look like they're fired up and ready for this game. So,
oh, I agree. We're looking around for news as far as team and league news goes, and I think there's only one topic that we want to touch on, and that's the turmoil going on right now with the Bears organization. And we're not going to get too much into it, but yeah, they lost a key member of their coaching staff, and if allegations are true,
and somebody else found him.
Yeah. And if those allegations are true, then good job for the law enforcement officers out there for investigating and taking care of business.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know any specifics about what happened with Coach Alan Williams. Obviously, he gave the team no notice, just kind of said, "Hey, I'm stepping away," after their Week 2 loss. And then the next thing we knew, former Bears great and current FBI agent Peanut Tillman had informed the team that, hey, your former DC's house was just raided. So pretty shocking news. Yeah, like you said, let's not get too deep into it. We don't really have the details, but look, you never know what someone's like outside of work. I mean, everyone's home is pretty private. Obviously, if what's being reported is true, then there needs to be a better vetting process, I think, for certain positions in the NFL. But that's something that's kind of always been true. But it's a shame. It's a shame that someone like that was given a position of influence over a group of young men. So let's hope that that stink is quickly washed away from the Bears organization and they move on. There is one other thing of note, too, though. Thursday night game was between the San Francisco 49ers and the New York City Giants, and San Francisco is on a tear. They certainly had trouble taking down the Rams when they faced them in Week 2, which to me just says that the Rams are an actual legit team, and I shouldn't read too much into the fact they were able to beat us up at home, even though that's still not a fun thing to admit. But we know the 49ers are real, and it looks like the Rams are back in fine form. So this division is going to be tough. There are at least 3 teams that have, I think, at this point, a playoff aspirations. And we're going to have to see one of those teams twice more this year, and the other one we're going to have to see once. So, yeah, we need to keep pace. So, this obviously isn't a do or die situation, but I don't think that we want to be starting off 1-2. I think we'd rather be 2-1.
Oh, I agree. In fact, I would say if we go 1-2, there's a real chance this team won't make the playoffs, primarily because we have a really tough stretch down the road. I mean, we still have to face Philadelphia, Dallas, 49ers twice, like you said. And the Niners had a hard time with the Rams in the first half of that game. In the second half, they were able to pull it out.
That seems to be the MO for the 49ers this year. Struggling in the first half and then just blowing teams out of the water in the second half. Obviously, we know what that's like firsthand with the playoff loss. I mean, we were ahead, and then they came out and just punched us right in the mouth. So that seems to be the way the 49ers are going to play this year, which just means when we see them, those second half adjustments are going to be the most important aspect of the game.
Oh, yeah. Well, second half adjustments, we've already seen how much that can impact a game. Let's just go rewatch week 1.
Let's not rewatch week 1.
Well, the Seahawks are really busy this past week when it came to roster moves.
Understatement of the year.
I took all these names and I tried to group them into categories. So let's see how we did. First thing is we placed defensive end Mike Morris, the promising rookie, on injured reserve. Looks like this is a season ender. He's having shoulder surgery. It is not a quick surgery to come back from, but he's young. Let's get this taken care of so it's not a lingering issue. For that roster spot, they promoted corner Artie Burns off the practice squad to the active roster. Now, he had been elevated for the first 2 weeks from the practice squad. He played pretty well. I have been pretty open about not being an Artie Burns fan, but he came in this year and he is here to play, and he showed it. He may have been our best or in that better tier of corners for the Seahawks this year. And he's going to fight for reps in the slot. He'll fight for reps as a relief outside corner. And watch out, Artie Burns is here to play this year. So congratulations for him for making to the team. And if he continues to play this way, then he'll show that he is that first round talent that he was drafted as by the Steelers. They also went out and signed a tight end, Brady Russell, I believe off Philadelphia's practice squad.
Yeah.
This is primarily because Will Dissly has a shoulder injury. It's kind of limited him. He was limited all week or did not practice certain days this week. This is an insurance policy. I don't know much about him. Let's see if he even suits up for the game. This literally just might be a let's get a tight end in here in case this is a longer process for Dissly. They waived, I would say, one of our favorites here on the podcast, and that's outside linebacker, last year's, I want to say, 5th round pick, Tyreek Smith, which is okay because they immediately signed him back to the practice squad as soon as he cleared waivers. So joining him, go ahead.
Which Robbie actually said, I when we talked about this when it was announced that he was released from the practice squad, I was upset. I know Robbie was upset, but his immediate thought was they're going to bring him back. Just let's cool off for 24 hours and see what happens. And you were right. They brought him back, which is great because I do think Tyreek Smith has a future with this team. He's obviously a great guy to have in that reserve role, rushing from the outside. So it's good to see him back.
Yeah, he made a lot of plays in camp and in preseason. There's been a lot of good buzz from him before he got injured last year and then through the whole preseason process. He had a couple missed tackles so far this year. That might be something they're just trying to clean up. I think they needed that roster spot, though, for this tight end, this injury protection for the tight end group.
Yeah.
We also signed other players to the practice squad. Tight end Lindsey, wide receiver who was with us in preseason, defensive tackle Carl Davis, and defensive back Tease Tabor, who was with us a little bit last year, former high draft pick who is still kind of trying to find his mark in the league. And then in order to make those moves, wide receiver Matt Landers, defensive back Robert Rochelle, and offensive lineman Greg Island were released from the practice squad.
Which just goes to show you how much faith they have in our backup tackles coming off of that great performance in week 2. Because Island was signed pretty much immediately after we placed our starting tackle on injured reserve. So they were expecting to possibly need the help at that position, and obviously we don't, which is great.
Yeah, they've been playing him at guard, but just help on that offensive line. He's somebody they're familiar with. He's been on and off our practice squad for the last 3 years. So he's somebody who I fully expect them to bring back again at some point during the season onto the practice squad.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprising.
So injuries, right? We just talked about them. Guys going on injured reserve, people being brought in as insurance policies due to injuries. Our injury report is crazy. I don't know the last time I saw 11 Seahawks on the game day status injury report. So once again, I'll just run through these real quick and then we'll talk about them. Out, we have starting left tackle Charles Cross will miss this game again. And defensive back, safety corner, slot corner extraordinaire Kobe Bryant will also be missing this game. In the doubtful category, corner Tariq Woolen is doubtful, and tight end Will Dissly, 2 guys who key contributors. Questionable. This doesn't bode well. We already have 2 defensive backs who are out or doubtful. Let's just go ahead and add all the safeties to this list, basically. So questionable.
Not basically all the safeties. Well, sorry, Jarek Reed.
Yeah, Jarek Reed would be the only safety who is not on the injury report going into this game. So questionable, we have Quandre Diggs, Julian Love, Jamal Adams, all questionable. Defensive tackle Jerron Reed, questionable. DK Metcalf, also questionable. And
he did of note. Sorry, I know you said you
go
run
ahead.
through quick. I was going to say, of note, DK did practice in full today, so hopefully he's a go for the game.
And I think he publicly said that he's playing. So we'll see. We'll see if there's any fire behind that smoke. And then our third string running back, but number 1 kick returner, punt returner, special teams guy, kind of do everything, DJ Dallas is also questionable for this game. So there's some key names on that list.
Yeah. This is not the thing you want to see going into what is a fairly critical game early in the season. It's never fun to see injuries, especially when we've got a real big injury report like this. But these are all these guys are starters and key contributors on this team. I mean, you can say Julian Love is technically a backup safety, but he's been starting obviously with Jamal Adams out. Kobe Bryant's been on the field for quite a few defensive snaps. Obviously, Tariq Woolen is our starting left cornerback. And then we've got DK Metcalf. Jerron Reed, I know, is going to be really critical in this game because he was the guy stopping the run. I mean, go back and watch. His long arms were the only reason we're only giving up 2.9 yards per carry right now. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Jerron Reed just has the longest arms I've ever seen. So, a little trepidation going into this game based off this injury report. Hopefully, most of those guys that are questionable are going to be able to suit up. But yeah, obviously, you're kind of holding your breath and waiting for that Sunday morning report to come out.
Yeah, 100%. I think if Tariq Woolen, who I'm not expecting to play, if he can go, that's a big game changer for us. And then obviously Will Dissly. Once again, our doubtful category here, those are key contributors for this team.
Yeah.
So, and then like you said, Jerron Reed, all those guys on the questionable list contribute every single game. So, or are expected to.
Yeah.
And Jamal Adams comes back. How about the Panthers? How's their injury situation looking?
A lot better than ours. The Panthers only have one guy that is looking like he is not going to be playing, and that of course is number 1 overall pick Bryce Young. He is going to be out. Obviously, anybody who's been watching some of these games, like I know me and Robbie have been watching, especially with these rookie quarterbacks, this man has been taking a beating. Not without his own he's to blame for some of that. He's pretty quick to run. I mean, obviously, coming to the league, the game's pretty fast. He knows he has the athleticism, kind of relies on that. A lot of young quarterbacks do coming to the league, but for a guy of his size, stature, uh, he's been taking a beating, and the bruises are showing for sure. The only other injury of note is that Justin Houston is questionable. Obviously, I would be okay if Justin Houston didn't suit up for this game. Even though he is on the back end of his career, that man can still rush the passer. He's got every trick in the book. He knows how to use his length to his advantage, and especially when we're playing two backup tackles. I'm perfectly happy if Justin Houston does not suit up for this game. But that's it. Other than that, this is a full go team. Obviously, there are some notable guys that they placed on injured reserve at the beginning of the year that won't be here, but that's the same could be said for almost every team in the league. So
yeah, notably, Shaq Thompson and J.C. Horn are the two big names that we will not face from that Panthers defense,
which I'm okay with.
Looking at our 5 keys to success, these are things that we sit down and analyze based on trends that the Seahawks are either doing or not doing.
It's been a lot of not doing.
In order to be successful in the game. So our number one, or I guess not our number one, but no, you know what? I'm going to say it is first on our list, and it is first in our hearts this week. That is the week 2 Shane Waldron needs to show up, and he needs to bring that game plan with him. Maybe not the exact game plan, but one as effective.
Yeah, something pretty close
to it.
Yeah, look, I mean, that was the big thing in week 1, is that we decided to just go away from what was working. We were averaging over 5 yards a carry week 1, and then the second half comes and we decided to run the ball one time. Yes, we only had 12 plays all the second half, but I would feel like maybe at least 4 or 5 of those should have been a run, and it wasn't. And then you go to week 2, fast forward to week 2 against the Lions, a much more formidable front 5. Or front 7 or whatever the numbers is. Apparently I can't count. And we stuck with the run game, and it paid dividends. No, it wasn't as effective as we were week 1 running the ball, but it was more effective in different ways. Not as many yards per carry, but it affected the game. Obviously helped us set up play action pass, opened up the middle of that field because those linebackers were having to come forward to kind of corral Kenneth Walker. And it's I think one of the biggest reasons why we were able to pull out that upset win in Detroit. So yeah, it'd be really nice if Shane Waldron came into this game and decided, you know what, I'm gonna run the ball, I'm gonna use the tight ends, and I'm going to utilize the quick passing game. All things that were led to success last week. Let's hope we get to see some of that this week.
Yeah, exactly, and that leads us perfectly into our second key to success, and that's pound the rock. Right? It's not rocket science here. I'm going to shout out the Locked On Seahawks podcast.
Nice pun. Rocket science. I don't know. Go ahead, Robbie.
But the Carolina Panthers have the most missed tackles in the NFL this season. Of course, the Seahawks have the second most missed tackles in the NFL this season. But
of course,
we will say that let's lean on the fact that the Panthers have not been doing so well in one-on-one tackling, and let's make them tackle. So let's pound the rock. Let's hit the hole. Let's let our running backs go to work. I would love to see 55% passing, 45% run in this game, as opposed to the 20% run we normally get from a Shane Waldron called offense.
That's a big ask. I would be happy with 66-33, which is about what we had last week against the Lions. Look, I think the biggest thing here is what we haven't seen yet is Kenneth Walker with a game-breaking run. We know he's capable of it. It's only a matter of time before it happens. And going up against a team that has been that poor against tackling one-on-one, I think this is the game for it to happen, and he's going to need the carries to do it. I mean, that's 15, 20 touches for him, and he just needs one. He just needs that one to break this game wide open. And look, I still don't think we've seen enough of Zach Charbonnet. I mean, we saw 2 carries week 1. I think he had 4 carries in week 2. Let's keep doubling. Let's get him 8 carries this game. We get him 8 carries. We Kenneth Walker 15 to 20 touches. I think that we win. I just can't see a way that we lose this game if those guys get their touches.
Yeah, I agree. So Shane Waldron, let's call a balanced game. Let's get the running backs involved. It also takes pressure off of those backup offensive tackles. Once again, that's football 101. Just putting that out there. Our third key to success, we got to keep Geno clean, right? We have backup tackles. Use scheme in order to help keep the pressure off of Geno Smith. He did what he did. He utilized that short passing game to carve up the Lions at times. And he had over 300 yards passing in that game. So let's stick to that same sort of game plan. Let's control the tempo. Let's use the short game. Don't let our tackles have negative plays by getting in their head because we're asking them to go out there and block somebody for a longer time than they need to, right? Geno Smith did a good job at times of extending plays, utilizing his legs. But let's keep it short. Let's keep it quick. Let's build confidence early in those tackles. And then maybe later on, you can take a deep shot here or there, utilize that 5-7 step drop.
Yeah, look, that's what we saw last week. I mean, the reason that we got Lockett those two touchdowns, well, the one long one, obviously the second one was a little bit of a shorter pass, but the reason we got that long pass to Lockett in the end zone was because those safeties were cheating up to stop the run. Those safeties were cheating up because they knew we were using the tight ends on quick outs and up the seam, which left Lockett one-on-one on the outside. And Lockett one on the outside, I'll take him with any corner in this league.
Yep.
Same with DK Metcalf. Look, we haven't seen that big, long, deep jumping ball for DK yet. I expect it to come sooner rather than later. But the way you get that is by getting those one-on-one matchups on the outside. And to do that, you need to make sure that those safeties and those linebackers are accounting for the tight ends and the running backs.
Our fourth key to success is actually related to the third one, just for the defense. We need to make Dalton feel the heat of our pass rushers. He is not a fleet of foot quarterback. So that means if we can collapse that pocket, if we can get him a little bit antsy, there's a good chance that we're going to have a defender who can run him down. We need to get sacks, pressures, hits. We need to make him wish he was on the sideline holding a clipboard in that backup role.
Yeah, look, Andy Dalton is not Jared Goff. And I'll be the first to admit that I was down on Jared Goff, but Jared Goff is an excellent pocket passer. If Jared Goff has a clean pocket, he can carve you up, which he has proven the last two times that we have faced the Lions. He can sling the ball. You give him an open window, he's going to find the open guy and get that ball out. Andy Dalton is kind of like, I guess, Jared Goff light is the way I would put it. He's a little bit more mobile than Jared Goff. He's definitely a bigger guy than Jared Goff. He's got a bigger arm than Jared Goff too. So we need to put the pressure on him because if we let him sit back and carve us up, he can do it. This guy knows how to get the ball out on time. He's a professional quarterback. There's a reason he still has a job in this league. He was a starter up until 2 years ago. And he acquitted himself pretty well when he was out on the field. Most notably when he beat the Seahawks in Week 5 in New Orleans. So Andy Dalton can pass the ball. We need to definitely turn up the heat. I know we're probably not going to have Jamal Adams. I'm not sure we're going to be dialing up the blitz quite as much as we would if we had a full complement of our guys out there. But let's find a way to get guys involved. I mean, look, not to give a sneak preview of the next one, but Trey Brown looked pretty good on those corner blitzes. Let's dial some of those up and make Dalton feel it.
Exactly. And with the preview, our fifth key to success is Trey Brown can't do it alone. This secondary needs to figure coverage out. We are one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to passing yards allowed. It shouldn't happen with the talent that we have. No. So hopefully Clint Hurt got together with his coaching staff for the secondary and coverage specialists, and they figured out what they were doing wrong. I mean, they're not going to change schemes, which would be the ideal fix for this, but they can at least sprinkle a little bit of effectiveness on these plays and try to figure out something in coverage, because right now what they're doing is not working.
Yeah, look, whatever Trey Brown had for breakfast last Sunday, make the rest of the guys in the secondary eat that. Um, he was all over the field, lights out. I mean, that man obviously got the turnover and the touchdown on defense, which led to our winning that game. He also you got, I mean, he had at least 2 quarterback hits and that quarterback sack. He was playing lights out. I said before that I didn't want to see him or Mike Jackson on the field based off the Week 1 performance. I ate my words. Trey Brown, I'm sorry. You were the only guy in that secondary that was doing his job well. And I really, really hope that the rest of the team can build off that success. It's going to be kind of hard knowing that we're probably going to be without a few of those guys. But look, Artie Burns has acquitted himself pretty well. Mike Jackson, we know he's a professional cornerback. We saw it last year. So it's not like these guys can't handle this. But look, we can't be giving these receivers free releases, especially a guy like Adam Thielen and DJ Shark. DJ Shark is a speedster. Do not give him a free release because he will beat you every time down the line. And go back and watch the plays that they've been running with DJ Shark this year. They've been seams. They've been 9 routes. He's getting down the field. The idea is to take that big shot to him. And Adam Thielen catches everything that's near him. So bump him. Get him off of his game. Don't let Andy Dalton find him open.
Exactly. And I got to give a quick caveat here to the make Dalton feel the heat, number 4. A lot of that's going to depend on if Jarran Reed can go, right? He's questionable for this game. If he's not in there, we're going to have a really hard time pressuring Dalton, because we're not going to have as much push up the middle. I don't have as much faith in basically anybody else on the roster to go play that inside nose spot that can actually collapse the pocket. So if he can't go, I pray that somebody on the roster surprises me. But yeah, that actually leads us into our next segment, which is our position comparison. So if you look at the two teams, looking at this quarterback, we have backup, experienced veteran Andy Dalton against Geno Smith. I'm going to take Geno Smith every time in that matchup.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much to say about this. Anybody that thinks Dan Dalton's a better quarterback than Geno Smith doesn't have a job in the NFL, and for good reason.
As far as the running backs go, they have some pretty good running backs in Carolina. In fact, they have a decent rushing attack. I believe they're 9th in the league when it comes to rush yards. I like our group. I was tempted on this one to give it a push, kind of say they were equal, because DJ Dallas is questionable. He has that injury coming in. But I'm going to go ahead and give this to the Seahawks. Let's go ahead and split carries between Walker and Charbonnet. Let's use a little bit of that tough running of Charbonnet to complement those speed lightning type of moves that Kenneth Walker has.
Yeah, I'm giving this to the Seahawks mainly just because of how electric Kenneth Walker is. Look, Miles Sanders is a professional professional running back. He looked really great playing behind that all-world offensive line in Philadelphia last year. He hasn't quite looked the same this year. He can still find those holes and get up the middle. And Chuba Hubbard is another big bruiser. So I think they've got a good stable, but yeah, I'll take ours. Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned a couple of their wide receivers earlier in Thielen and Shark. Good guys, right? They have some good players, and they're going to challenge our secondary for sure. I'm going to take Metcalf, who I believe will play, Lockett, and Smith-Njigba over their top 3. So I've got to give this to the Seahawks.
Hey, don't forget Bobo, man. I feel like Bobo is Adam Thielen 2.0. We just haven't seen it yet. He's only gotten 1 target in 2 games. More Bobo, I believe, was the cry during training camp. I'm hoping to see more Bobo this game. I also take the Seahawks wide receiver room.
As far as the tight ends go, I like Hayden Hurst for Carolina, but he's basically it. So I'm going to go with our 2.5-headed monster because we don't know if Disley is going to play. Give me a heavy dose of Parkinson on the line, helping block for those tackles. Let's get Fant out in space. Let's utilize our tight ends. I'm going to give this to the Seahawks because I'm familiar with our tight ends. I like what both of our guys bring versus just the one guy for Carolina.
Yeah, look, Hayden Hurst is a decent guy, but he's not as good of a pass catcher as Noah Fant, and he's not as good of a blocker as Colby Parkinson's become. And I'm not even sure he's a better pass catcher than Colby Parkinson, to be completely honest. I think given as many opportunities as Hayden Hurst is seeing this year, Colby Parkinson would have better numbers. So yeah, I take our group. Even without Disley.
Yeah. So for the offensive line, I can't give it to the Seahawks. Just with the amount of injuries, the uncertainty that we have on the offensive line, they did a really good job last game. Let me see that again, and then we'll talk. So I'm going to give the matchup to Carolina, but the Seahawks O-line played really well in week 2, and let's see some of those repeat performances.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm ended up being the homer this week. I gave this one a push, mainly just because I've seen what Carolina's looked like when pressure's been on these first 2 games, and that offensive line has not looked good, especially their starting left tackle. He has had his lunch taken away from him by every defensive rusher that he's played. So I'm going to give this a push just based off how well our backups tackles did last week. And if Shane Waldron week 2 shows up, then I think our offensive line is going to look much better. But I'll give this one a push for now.
Flipping to the defensive side of the ball, for the defensive line, I kind of have a caveat here. If Jarran Reed plays, then I put this group in the Seahawks category. If he is not able to go, then Carolina has the edge on the defensive line. So you could say that's a push. It's not, though, because I'm going to give it to the Seahawks in hopes that he plays. But if he does not, then watch out, because our line will not be getting the push, getting the presence that they need to have on this field.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Carolina on this one, just because I've seen them do a bit better in the trenches so far this year. That defensive line has been really good at collapsing the pocket, especially the interior part of it. Their D tackle has been eating up double blocks or double teams. Opening things up for those outside rushers. I'm giving a slight edge to Carolina. If Jarran Reed plays, that edge gets a little bit smaller, though.
All right. Now the linebackers. This was a tough one for me. I really like what Carolina's bringing to the party, even with Shaq Thompson being on injured reserve. I'm going to give Carolina a slight edge just because our pass rushers, so our outside linebackers, I don't believe are getting the job done. I don't think they're living up to the hype coming into the season. Hopefully Boye Mafe is good to go. He wasn't on the injury report, so hopefully he's starting there across from Nwosu. That may be all the difference versus what we saw out of the pass rushers in week 2. I'm going to give a slight edge to Carolina in the linebackers.
Yeah, I gave this one a push, and it's really just because I did it with, I think, maybe just a hope towards the future or with this game, because I do think it's only a matter of time before our guys finally unlock that pass rush and start getting to the quarterback time in and time out. I think this is the game where they do it. I think that Geno's going to have his hands full. I don't expect our O-line to not give up any sacks like they did last week. So yeah, I'm giving this one a push because I do think our rushers do get to Andy Dalton a few times in this game and make him feel that heat. But I do think that Carolina is gonna be making Geno have to use his feet a little bit more than he did last week. Just don't give up 17-yard sacks, Geno, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Defensive backs. Oh, this pains me because I love our defensive backs room, but they can't. My grandma can complete passes against this secondary right now. Like, I don't know what's going on. I can't give it to them. You have all the talent in the world and just can't put it together. So I'm giving this to Carolina primarily because, my grandma would have a good quarterback rating.
Yeah, this one was really tough for me. I originally gave it to Carolina, but I'm hoping that we get to see at least Diggs and Love out there. And I'm thinking that Devin Witherspoon's going to have. I mean, he could hardly have a worse game than he had last week. Not he wasn't. I shouldn't say that. He wasn't bad. He was out there for every defensive snap. He definitely looked up a little. I don't want to say lost, but it was definitely, you could see his eyes were pretty big. The lights were definitely bright. I think he's going to do better this week. Give him a full week of going in practice and as the starter on the outside. I'm going to go ahead and give this a push with the caveat that if either one of them, Love or Diggs, doesn't play, then Carolina's clearly got the edge.
Fair enough. When it's all said and done, how do you see this game turning out? What's your prediction for the final score of this game?
I'm drinking the homer juice this week. I think that the 12s come and show up. I really think that we're going to want some redemption from that week 1 upset at home against the Rams. I think that the sports books are gonna be a little upset with the Seahawks. And I do think that they not only beat the spread, but yeah, I think they beat it handily. I'm gonna say Seahawks 26, Carolina 27. I think that we're gonna, like the defense has shown the last couple of weeks, we can play really well between the 20s. I don't think they're gonna get in the red zone very much. I do think they do at least twice, and I think they score both times, but I don't think they see the red zone that often.
So you have Seattle losing by 1 point?
No, 26-17. Didn't I? Oh, did I say 27? Sorry.
You said 27.
Seahawks.
Okay.
Sorry. Forget I said that. Seahawks 26, Carolina 17. 17. I can't read my own handwriting. Sorry, guys. No, I have the Seahawks winning by 9 points.
Winning by 9 points. All right. I'm not too far off of you. And I'm going to attribute this to the 12 showing up, exactly like you said. Let's get that stadium rocking. We are not the home field advantage that we used to be in Seattle. But let's get the 12s there. We're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of that Super Bowl win, right? With the Legion of Boom era starting.
Mm-hmm.
They're, for the first time, wearing white jerseys at home in order to commemorate.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, in order to commemorate that win. So I'm going to say there's a little bit extra going into that motivation tank. I think the crowd's going to be with them. I have my final score prediction, Carolina 20, Seattle 28.
All right. I'd love to see it. Like, if we, and not because I don't want Jason Myers to be out there for many field goals, even though it's been a kind of a scary prospect, but yeah, I would love to see it if we were touchdown drives all the way and not having to settle for 3 points. So I hope you're right. Either way, as long as it's a win, I'm going to be happy. I'd love to see it be not a blowout win, but a defined win, a leave no doubt kind of win. But yeah, not to preempt you. Go ahead. I know you want to get to final thoughts.
So really, my final thoughts going into this game are, let's see consistency. I want to see, can this team take what they did in week 2 and duplicate the toughness, the effort, the game planning? It's not all about the players on the field. The players execute what the coaches put in place. And we have had some difficulties in coaching when it comes to both play calling and scheme fits here in Seattle. So let's duplicate the success. And that comes from preparation. So hopefully these plethora of injuries don't hurt us as bad as they could. And let's see the effort.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think week 2 are the real Seahawks. I really, really do. So I expect to see that team out here again.
My preseason record prediction says that the week 2 Seahawks are the Seahawks. I got a little scared with week 1. So yeah, let's see exactly what shakes out. Thank you for listening to the Let's Talk Seahawks podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. It really helps out the channel. If you're listening in the audio land, feel free to jump over to YouTube. It's youtube.com/@Let's-Talk-Seahawks. Give us a subscribe. Thank you for listening wherever you're at, whichever platform you're on. We appreciate it wholeheartedly. Until next time, as always, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.